I think we should watch that Matt Rife promo clip. Did you ever watch it? That I sent it to you.
Yeah.
You watched the whole thing?
I didn't watch the special.
No, not the special. But it was that promo clip.
No, I watched the clip.
There was something, it was so, I like when we watch like a really bad comedy thing and just like diagnose
hesitation. I don't know. Listen.
On the Patreon.
Okay.
No one's going to listen to it.
That's true. Okay.
Unless you want to join.
Okay, I'll give you my full opinion. Because it's a complicated opinion.
It's a complicated opinion.
No, but I have
It's nuanced?
I have suddenly I have like a thing going off in me like, well, we can talk about it on the Patreon. No, listen, I feel like it's easy to listen. It's Matt Rife, whatever. There's something in me that's like, I don't know. Should we make fun of comedians?
I hear what you're saying.
I know you mean. I know.
I hear what you're saying. I just think
thing.
there's some degree, not even calling out, because we're not going to watch it and go, you shouldn't call a character Fat Rife and like make the laziest fat joke while wearing a bad fat suit.
Yeah.
And like, it's not that. It's more just like, I think there's sometimes my thing is like comedy that people get annoyed with, sometimes even offensive, where they say it's offensive. I go, it's also bad. And I think there's been a conflation of like, there's been a claim from some of these comedians of, are you offended? Oh, you must be offended. And that's why.
So I don't know if you want to talk about this
complain.
on this, but I had something to
say it.
Recently I was around some older people and they did the old thing when they found out that I do comedy and I've done Broadway and stuff. They started talking about comedy and they're like, well, it must be so hard nowadays to do comedy because people are so sensitive. And they asked in a genuine way. They weren't like confrontational. They asked like, is it hard? And I said, honestly, no, I've not. Like, you can say what you want to say. I was like, it just depends on who the base of support that you've built up. And I feel like sometimes, like, if you've built up a base that's going to get mad about a lot of things, that's one thing. If you built out a base that is demanding that you say the most crazy thing, then that's something else. Or if you've built out people who like a good joke and can, I was like, it really depends on the base of people that you've built up for yourself.
Yeah.
And I was like, honestly, too, from my own experience, I've looked back at things that I wrote, sketches I wrote 10 years ago, and I'm like, I don't find that funny anymore. That's when I'm like, I can see what I was going for there, but it's not that I'm offended. It's more that this feels hacky now, and it feels like it doesn't resonate as interesting or funny anymore.
Well, I'll tell you a joke that I regretted. I posted in Australia and I took it down where I was in Australia and the whole breakdancing thing happened. And I was in Sydney and I was like, well, how incredible is this?
Yeah.
I'm in Australia. This thing happened. It's so big. It's like a rare cultural moment that everyone knows about in the room. And it happened that day.
Yeah.
And so, like, first the joke was just the tweet where it was like, I just found out I'm the best breakdancer in Australia. And then, I wanted a little more meat on the bone. And so and this is also the other thing that I think is like with offensive comedy or like comedy where you go like, that was shitty. Sometimes it's just like, it's lazy or it's quick or you didn't like think it through or you're just going for like, you're like trying to like,
it's quick. It's quick.
Here.
You're not thinking. Yeah.
And normally there's plenty of jokes that I would like go like, I stand by that joke.
Yeah.
And this was like, so then the next beat was, my girlfriend said, hey, at least she gave it her best. She gave it her best, which my girlfriend did not say.
Yeah.
And I go, give it her best. It's the Olympics. It's not about giving it your best. And then the punch, I needed one last punch, and that's the Special Olympics. And it was like, it worked. Here's the thing also. It's like when you do live entertainment it worked. It worked in the room. It got a big pop. Everyone laughed. And, obviously the joke that I was trying to go for is just like, that's not what the Olympics are about. And I needed, that's blah, blah, blah. And in the 10 seconds before stage, I said, oh, this works.
Yeah.
And then it felt exciting. And then I go, oh, let me put this online. Like everyone else, you do it right in the moment. And then, of course, an hour later, people said, oh, that's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Or you're kind of using this thing.
Yeah.
Russell wrote, I love that joke. That's the best joke you've ever written in the entire life.
No, I tried to see, you had already taken it down by the time you were spider.
Yeah, someone wrote like, where'd that joke go? I like that joke. And it's just like, but that was the one where it wasn't that I said, uh-oh, I'm getting in trouble. Frankly, I feel like those times have passed to a degree. Or I've built up, as you said, like a fan base that goes like, I like darker, whatever things.
Yeah.
But the criticisms to me felt like, yeah, you're right.
You're right. Yeah.
You're right.
It's
There's
easy.
no need.
It's easy.
There's no
It's
need
not
to
like
drag this to like shit on this thing.
Yeah.
And also logically, you could go like, well, even the Special Olympics, it's not anyone giving their best shot. It's like the best in whatever category it is. If it's people running that don't have their full legs, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's not about giving the best shot. So it also doesn't make sense fully logically.
Right.
It just hinges on the fact that saying Special Olympics
as a
punchline.
Yeah, is something we've been trained to do.
As opposed to Shane Gillis has like a Special Olympics bit that I think is really smart, where he basically, it's like, can you imagine the first person who pitched that idea? How hard that was at the meeting. As I'm butchering it, but basically, what if we race them? Yeah. And it's just like the turn of that is logical within the construct of what is real. And so to me, it's like that's edgy. And I'm sure some people said, don't even talk about it. But it's logically, it makes it. It's like it makes sense. The framing of it could sound so amusing.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that, and then with this age group of people, a lot of times they'll always bring up Blazing Saddles. You could never make that movie now. And I'm like, what? Genuinely, what the fuck are you talking about? Is it just that you can't say the N-word? Is that all that in that movie that they're talking about? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Is that it? Is that's the one thing?
Well, it feels like
it's the one thing that they want to be able to
definitely.
Say.
But I also think that's attached to it. Here's what I think, because people got all upset about Tim Waltz. I mean, it's fake upset, but Tim Waltz made the joke to Kamala of, oh, I like white guy tacos.
Yeah.
And everyone said like white people like spicy foods. And there's a degree where you want to grab all the white people and say, hey, you have no idea the kind of constant harassment, just casually, socially, let alone systematically with the police, that other groups have suffered, especially in America. Deal with the spicy joke. That's part of it. And then I think the part is like, I think we've grown up in a world where we had so much to correct for. Here's the thing that I think is like when the white guys like whine about it, I go like, well, you have no idea. White women too. You have no idea, or you don't seem to want to accept how much of a correction needs to be made.
Exactly.
But I think what they would go is they go like, I think it's like when you went on Twitter for a long time and there'd be like, men are trash. And some guys would be like, hey, that feels like a broad thing. That's annoying. We can't say, and it's like, sure, you're right. In an ideal world, saying this big broad statement would be kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
But men were doing it for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So you got to deal with for a little and we can recalibrate.
Yeah. But also, I think when someone's like Blazing Saddles or Don Rickles, like, you could never do that now, blah, blah, blah. I want to be like, I could guarantee you I could find 10 women comedians saying something that you would deem as that's crossing a line. Only because it's like you have rules about who can say the things and who can't. And I know that certain age group would be offended by certain things that I could find funny now that they're like, just because they don't like the messenger or who's saying.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I do think that there's a thing of like, no, it's just one of those things where I think there's tons of edgy funny things that are like, whoa, that I can think of in my lifetime that are past Blazing Saddles. And I
and by the way,
not to take it away from, I've only seen Blazing Saddles once. I'm not a huge Mel Brooks guy.
No, not a
honest.
huge Mel Brooks. But it's just like this thing of like, first of all, I promise you, and if you look at it in the evolution of comedy, first of all, saying white guys, like joking about white people don't like any spice in their food, it has diminished in terms of its comedic heft. This is what happens with comedy tropes. Like in terms of, there was a time where so many comedians would talk about like, about spice, and white people, their food is bland. There will come a day, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, where it'll be like, okay. That it won't even be like, it won't even be that funny or original. It'll be kind of hacky. It is kind of hacky.
Yeah.
When the presidential running person makes the joke,
it's
usually that
hacky.
means it's kind of on the way out. It's now in the general thing.
Yeah.
And there's just this thing where like you just have to accept it. Like the other thing, there's a comedian who I'm not a big fan of, who he's short. And listen, I understand when a short guy being upset that some women will go on Twitter and go like, oh, if you're below this, I never want to touch your dick. Fuck you, kill yourself.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
Even as a tall guy, I can put myself in your little
shoes.
itty bitty shoes. But this guy, like, all his jokes are about like, I think there was like originally, and again, this is the twist. It's like, you can make fun of someone's height, but you can't ask them about their weight on dating apps. You can ask them about the height, you can't ask them about the weight. You say no short guys, I can't say no big women.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, point observed. But then like this guy, not the guy who made that joke, but this other guy, this little guy, he goes like, every joke is like, she's fat, Lizzo this, Lizzo that.
Yeah.
And I go like, I go like,
you're not pulling in the ladies. Do you know what I mean? Like you can tell when someone's so angry about something. Like, yeah, man, that's the issue. You're so angry about this.
First of all, I saw like a thing of like first of all, yes, you can find partners in this world.
Yeah.
You're mad because the women you want don't want you, but you chose.
You're lashing out.
People are out there. And second of all, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. You think women don't get insulted about their weight anymore?
Yeah.
It's fucking constant.
Yeah.
The whole world is constructed around women being judged for their bodies. And you had to deal with a fraction of that about your height. And you're so mad about it. Instead of banding together and going, hey, we should be nicer about people's bodies in general, you decided to make it all about your struggle because a couple women didn't want to fuck you on a dating app.
Try to sit in a room with a family member, extended family member over the age of 50, male. Yeah. And having to see a fat woman appear in a commercial. It's insane how they react, how they've been trained to be like, oh, why are we putting that? Like it's fucking crazy. Yeah. And you're looking at them being like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? It's insane.
And it comes from, I feel like with guys, and this is the same thing with like incels, where it's like, there's so much rage of like the person that you wanted to fuck didn't want to fuck you. And like, listen, buddy, welcome to the universe.
Yeah.
What do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
That's the story of the world.
Yeah.
Not everyone wants to fuck you.
Yeah.
That's we all have dealt with this.
Yeah.
We've all dealt with this.
Yeah.
I was hoping Russell and my conversation earlier would lead to him fucking me right now. It didn't happen. That doesn't mean I can lash out about it.
AI will fix that in the future.
AI is going to fix all of it.
It's going to switch that.
Listen, Zendaya's with a shorter guy. If he could do it, she's Tom Holland. He's shorter than her.
Yeah, yeah.
And listen, after seeing Challenger, as I said, I'd like to be a short guy now.
Why?
So I can fuck Zendaya. So
should be Tom Holland for your 24 hours.
Yeah. Tom Holland sitting there, spread eagle, just fingering my asshole.
Downside. You're listening to The Downside.
The Downside.
With Gianmarco Soresi.